So, in the last lecture, we just briefly looked at the larger context of our lives, the socio political, religious settings. We briefly touched the way what makes us, but as we ended, we had brought down ourselves to the self. So, if a human being belongs to society, so what is the society made of? It is made of other human beings. So, the question of self and other is the basic question which keeps us going, because we do not work in isolation, we do not earn in isolation, and we have to really keep changing, and we keep changing with other people, with our relationships. So, what I will do in this next 15-20 minutes, let us look at the way the psychology, the pop psychology looks at life. Some of it is science has proven, some are the results of the psychological surveys and the psychological questionnaires and studies which have been done across. They have been picked up randomly from the articles in free domains, but it will be interesting if you may be knowing lot of it, you may be experiencing lot of it, but still try to just peep in deeper into it. You see this is a game which was very popular, Pokemon, and people were trying to catch Pokemon and going for hours together and getting into the network of streets to catch one Pokemon. Why were they doing it? What was the, I mean, we know the whole silliness of it, that you have a mobile and you have and you just go, and these are like Pokemon clusters everywhere, and then you go and find out, and it will tell you where the next Pokemon, you just go capture it. What was it? It was this kick. Why do people go high on drugs? Why do people want to drive their car fast? Why do they want to do a bungee jumping and get into the wheels and the wells of death and everything? What are they doing? They are just doing what these kids are doing. And what are these kids doing? If you look at it, there are these two kids who are they trying to solve some puzzle there, or trying to fit in some number, or maybe they were just playing a game where they were catching something, but the whole excitement is one of achievement. Where does it come from? Is it taught or is it inherent? You read this word called dopamine. Dopamine is one of the chemicals, look at this, it is one of the chemicals, neurotransmitters. The others are serotonin and acetylcholine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter which actually manifests itself in the reward pathways of the brain. These are the structures of brain. If you want to know it, I can mark it. So, reward pathways are, these are the structures of the brain like nucleus accumbens, ventral tegmental area. This is a signaling agent in the brain that pushes us to do certain things. It is always, dopamine pushes you to explore, and that is the tendency of human beings right through the history. The tendency of human being is to go and explore. Now, whether this exploration, the things you try a new dress, you try a new car, or you try a new food in a restaurant, it all depends whether you are going to try it next time. It all depends whether your brain has perceived it as a reward or it has perceived it as a punishment. Now, when I am talking of punishment, I am not talking of those corporal punishment, I am talking of the displeasure, the feeling of discomfort. Now, this feeling of discomfort vis-a-vis feeling of pleasure. So, most of the acts are decided by whether you have had a pleasurable experience with certain act or you have had a discomfortable. And how does it happen? Because all your experiences are gone into the memory. This is stamped in memory, as it is written here, gives animal the motivation to repeat pleasurable experience. So, your mind is actually looking for that excitement and pleasure all the time, all the time. But when people get bored with the same pleasure again and again, gives less and less kick. So, then you have to explore for the new things. So, that is the inherent push in your mind which has evolved over years. And this is another thing which is, so there is a reward detection, there is a goal representation, that all acts are assessed on the hierarchy in the value system of reward. And then obviously, there is a whole cycle of calculations which go on, computation which goes on the brain to make you either do certain things or avoid certain things. But there are certain things which have emerged with the scanning of psychological behavior through various studies and all. I have clustered them, picked up various sources. I just want you to just identify and maybe just it will give you a click in your head, oh man, this is true. Because unless we understand this whole functioning, we will not know what we are going to do and with the further stuff. So, we cannot, some of this may sound very, very commonsensical and everyday life, and you may wonder why am I telling you, but as we progress into this course, towards the mid you will realize why I was telling you this. This is our behavior. So, this is not something which is esoteric and coming from for somebody else. The last lecture which I talked was our life, this is our behavior. So, just go through it quickly. We cannot avoid food and sex and danger, and this is if food, sex associated with sleep and thirst. We live by this. If any of these things is disturbed for a prolonged period, you know what are the consequences. You will end up in a hospital, be it a psychiatric hospital or a medical hospital. Danger, we all do risk taking in some form or the other, do not we? Even while you choose to make a career, and we say I will become an engineer, you have blocked other options and you put all your stakes believing that you can become an engineer and you have an engineer within you, and you give an exam, you want to enter one of the IITs or maybe you want to go to Stanford or MIT, and you put all your eggs in the basket, still you may not succeed, or you may. If you succeed, then you try to take more risk, maybe in future career, but still it is a risk taking, because you have, if you have invested 2 years or 1 or 2 years or 4 years of your studies to get into a center, and nobody guarantees that. So, the risk taking is there. To avoid this feeling of risk taking, there are a lot of structures which have been created. Imagine on a road, if people are free to drive on whatever side they want, it is a huge risk. So, the system has evolved that you drive on the left or you drive on the right or whatever things, and there are certain mechanisms and rules have to be followed to control this risk. But so people when they live a very, very regulated life, they do the other things. So your mind is pushing you to explore danger. You have to, you can't escape that, that is built inherently. Most of the things, we will talk of neuroscience, we think, but most of the decision making which appears conscious is actually after the unconscious mind has already decided on it. And as I said, dopamine makes you addicted to seeking information. The danger exploration has come to us from the evolution, and the question is that if the primitive man was not going to explore, he had to, because he wanted to hunt and get food, get his safe home and get his safe pastures. There was no way, unless if you keep sitting and you really do not do anything, then probably all this evolution and all this technological advances. I mean, imagine Wright brothers taking off the first flight, or the steam engine, or somebody learning driving for that matter. You would have learned driving. All that is actually in some form is like exploration, a little bit of danger, but you still, the danger is not just only for the kick. The brain pushes you to do that thing because brain wants the information of that new thing. Because brain is in a bad habit of this, of having more information that you can process. But why does the brain want it? Because brain wants to get everything what the senses can see, what your eyes can see, what you can hear, what you can touch, what you can smell. You will want that information because brain wants to have all information for survival. So that if suddenly a stimulus comes in front of your eyes, the brain does not want to be caught unaware. It does not like, surprise. To avoid this surprise and to help you survive, so that you can avoid threats, it chooses exploration. So, if the brain gets a chance to get an experience of something new, it will do it, it will try to push it. You may not do it, is a different question. That may be your conscious brain which has more inhibition, it inhibits. We will talk about it when you talk of brain. This inhibition actually stops you from jumping into a fire or going and hitting some policeman. But you would still want to know that, okay, what will a policeman do if I just break the law? So, all of us have been maybe caught for fast driving, or why do you drive? Why do you just sit on a bike? And you have powerful bike like Harley Davidson, and all people just want to sit, and that sense of power. That sense of power is actually coming from this push, which brain wants that how does it look like. So, suddenly if you are caught, next time the brain will evaluate whether it is a threat or a pleasure. So, it has chosen a very paradoxical way. It will push, it will take memory inside, it will store the experience. Next time it happens, it will compare whether it is a threat or it is not a threat. Because if you look at the speed, if somebody is the same speed, when you go on a roller coaster, you love to go like this and the speed. But if a car is speeding towards you, your mind will immediately realize that this speed is going to kill me. So, brain also does this decision making. So, as I said, unconscious knows first. What people look at on a picture or a screen depends on what you say to them. That means if there is a picture and there is a message, most people without realizing would see that message in that picture, and that is what they use in advertising. Often you will see an advertising for a product which is not there on the screen, and that is what they use in the glamour world. If you look at it, you will often wonder why are they showing this beautiful female when they are talking of slippers or shoes. The shoe may actually not come, but they are telling you. The advertiser has actually created a connection between maybe the walk and so your mind will make connections, and this is all happening unconsciously. Try to look at advertisements next time carefully and try to detach yourself from the message. Maybe you will find a new message there, but your brain in first instance will not look at that message, it will look at the message which has been projected, and that is the success of the whole advertising agency. So, your memories are not like some things written on stone, they are dynamic memories. Memories which you had as a 10-year-old may change at 40, maybe the core remains, lot of superficial, the frills changed, So, if you want to really change a habit, how do you change? If you keep telling, and this is a big question which happens in education and in families. A lot of parents will come and tell, I keep telling, he does not listen, she does not listen, she is doing that. People and students, let me tell you a simple example. A lot of students, if you ask them, and you can answer this honestly to yourself, whether you are able to make a timetable and follow it. 90% people will say no. They keep making timetables, activity schedules all their life, but they never get completed. And why? Maybe the commitment is not there, maybe you do not think it is important, but if you want to really change a habit, rather than telling, the sermons never work, but the fun works. A kid who is not writing will happily take such a pen and write on the screen, same kids, and we all know this. Maybe if you are not understanding a concept in physics, or you model it, do something out of it, you will start loving it. Surprise and a crowd, because people follow each other in the crowd. If a teacher asks in the class and they say, okay, how many of you follow your timetable, and 90% people will say yes, 10% will also change. But the problem here is that 90% will say I do not follow. So, nobody changes. There is something called, and this is how the brain works. This was the experiment which was done. There were people who were engaged in a game, and somebody dressed as a gorilla passed, and they did not even bother in this ball game. See, this standing here. So, that means they were blind to it, not because they were really physically blind, they were actually not paying attention to it. And this attention is the camera within. Attention is the bottleneck of all activities. So, the attention span, it is like a camera, you can put onto something and it will become a reality for you. Can you see something here? This was the X-ray plate, but some people saw a gorilla. And if you maybe look carefully, you can find this image on the net also. And these are small tidbits, like you read faster with a longer line length, but prefer shorter. You imagine object from above and tilted like perspectives. This is important for our times. There is a pride these days in saying that I can multitask, and I am a multitasker and all. But is this multitasking true? Is the multitasking real? Actually, your mind does not multitask. Now, again I am saying you all, if you apply whatever we talked in the last lecture and now, maybe you will set a background of how to go about it in the later thing. So, we can look at the cognition, emotion and transformation and compare with whatever we do. We think we are multitasking, but it is actually there is no multitasking in the brain. Even if you are doing two things, like you are reading and eating, the two acts and two different organs, but the way brain perceives at a given instance, in that infinitesimal instance, the brain will be doing one activity only. Either it will be feeling the taste or it will be reading, but the gap is so small that you think you are doing it at the same time. So, if there are three acts going on, X, Y, Z, you are trying to do it at the same time, but this is your attentional mechanism, the camera, the bottleneck as I said. So, they may just be following very close to each other, but as they go through it, they will still be lagging behind. There is no multitasking in that true biological sense, but because of that gap, as I said, it all appears that okay fine, I can do so many things. Sometimes this fine precision of separating the stimulus, separating the taste and the vision, it can break, and that is the source of anxiety or confusion or what we all know, mistakes. Your mind is taking 3-4 things serially, but this gap sometimes may just get overlapped, or your attention mechanism itself may get distracted with something, and then they muddle up and then you do a mistake. There are a lot of people who come and tell me, and I have also experienced, and you must have also experienced, that when you opened a book and your mind is travelling far, the book is here, that is the real stuff which you have to do, but your mind is just not onto it. Your mind is gone to some thought or some imagination, involuntary. I mean, we all know that during exams it happens to all of us. So, that concentration itself is something very illusory, because and these days with so much information overload, nobody opens a book and sits and write or read. You have a computer playing there, you have your mobile here and iPad and whatnot, and television, and so much going on, and that the poor brain has to keep shuffling between these 1000 stimulus here and there. So, it has to choose what is important for you, but to choose you may also require an intent or a will. How much that can be exercised is a big question. This is the bread and butter of psychiatry which people have given to them. It is a myth that all capital letters, this is just by the way for a, you overestimate your reactions to future events. The peripheral vision, while you are doing something, the television is playing, you still have something going on. As I said, there is too much information. Can you understand this sentence? This is important. If you are in a normal mood, if you are not too emotional at a given point of time, people can convince you more. These brand and logos do not mean anything, they are just a mode of convincing you and telling you that okay, this is good or that is good. They appeal you more when you are sad or scared. So, the reverse has also been used. You see the pictures of cancerous throat and all that on the cigarette. So, they are trying to use it, scare you. But that is the paradox. They scare you on a packet of cigarette, the brand still goes in. It is a sort of, there is a smart move which I think the companies have used, and they have listened to the health agencies also, put it there, and people will also look at the brand at the same time. So, when you have a heightened emotionality, you are more vulnerable to suggestions. Whether you are thinking logically or you are depends on your mood. So, maybe when you are less emotional, you can think rationally. As it is, the rational thinking is laced with emotion coming from the unconscious mind. But otherwise, when it is a situation which is involving a threat or a sudden survival problem, or you trust your gut, how many of us can really think and get violent? How many of us? You try it. Next time when you get angry at somebody, do not immediately express your anger. Just sit, wait for 5 minutes, take few deep breaths, have a glass of water, and then call that person or meet that person and show your anger with a completely chilled mind. Or if you want to really hit somebody, which you want to do, like people do on road rage, I sometimes tell them that what you should do is, if somebody has touched your bike or somebody has bumped into your car, do not do anything, just take the phone number, come back home, next morning go there and then fight. Try it, and you are always welcome to give me the feedbacks in our interactive sessions which we will plan out. Culture shapes our brain. If you remember, we were talking about that human beings belong to society and human beings make society. It is when we are born, from that point of time, lot of things which go into our head, that shape the networks of the brain and the way you think. I am leaving it here because we will talk about it as when we talk of the neuroscience. It has been a very robust finding in sociological research that whatever group size we relate to is somewhere along 150 people. So, in the huge world, the real ties which you have with people will be 150, maybe 200 people, and rest of it is like acquaintances and other people. So, you are actually living and changing for them. You are actually living and changing. Your work may impact a lot of people to a great extent, but actually you are living for this small group of people. And as I said, that the desire, the power is not somewhere from outside. The society, you may have observed people in power, you may have got impressed with the way they want to, but that impression is appealing your core actually, and that your core requires this, because this gives a sense of security. Too much stress results in poor performance. We all know this. There is something called the Yerkes-Dodson curve is like this. Little bit of anxiety, your performance goes up. Anxiety grows more, your performance comes down. So, this anxiety and the doubt and everything, mistakes are within it. You are lazy, answer for yourself. When something goes wrong by the people, they have a tendency to say that it was a situation which compelled me to do this. But when somebody else wrongs them, it is always the person and not the situation. Think over this. See in the last week how many times you have blamed, or maybe I look at myself, others for what has gone wrong with me. And how many times I have blamed myself when I have wronged somebody. This progress, however illusory it is motivating. This keeps you pushing. Whatever you are doing, it may be illusory, have no meaning, but still. So, given all this, there are a lot more of them, I will just skip through it. I gave you these tidbits and I want you to just put these first two lectures together, try to place yourself in the bigger socio-politics and look at the way we behave. And I will catch you in the next lecture, and then we will take it into a more concrete ways of explaining it on the basis of psychology and neuroscience. But as I said, this was about life and there will be many more things. So, just do some introspection and then we will get back. Thank you very much.